In this lesson we're going to be solving equations involving complex numbers, but I kind of wanted to show you this cartoon first. This is something that you see a lot. You'll see it t-shirts made of this or any kind of math jokes. But I want you to, now we can get it because we know what an imaginary number is. So if you're thinking of real numbers, which is all we've ever learned, pi is our only imaginary number, right? And when you think, or excuse me, I is our only imaginary number. And the number pi, or the symbol for pi, which is a number, is an example of an irrational number, a number that doesn't end or repeat. And so you'll notice that pi is telling I to get real because it's imaginary, and I is telling pi to be rational. I love this, but you might not find it as funny. So you guys all come with your t-shirts tomorrow. You can make your own, and you'll have cool little Math Geek t-shirts. I would love it. Or if you want to look for your Mrs. Beefert's end of the year gift, feel free to make me a t-shirt with this. So when we are solving number one, we are solving equations. And this looks like a normal problem that we have done a million times probably. So we're going to try and get x by itself. In order to do that, I would minus 48 from both sides. So I have 3x squared equals a negative 48. Divide by 3. So x squared equals negative 16. Now here's where the difference comes in. In the past when you've done these equations and had to solve these, you've had to stop here and say your answer is no. Well, you actually would go one more step. To get rid of the x squared, we'd square root both sides. And then we would say no solution. Since we know how to take the square root of negative 16 now, we know that it's 4i. The other part we might forget is that when you are solving a radical in an equation, you have to give both possible answers that would fit. For example, if I'm looking to make a 16, 4 squared works, but so does negative 4 squared. So we have to give both answers here. So I would always put a plus or minus there. It's plus or minus 4i. And that'll happen every time you square root both sides of an equation to solve. So number 2, we'd add 84 to both sides. So I have negative 2x squared equals 100. I divide by negative 2. So x squared equals a negative 50. To get rid of the x squared, I square root both sides. So now I'm going to have one. I know it's going to be plus or minus, but I have to break down the square root of 50. Hopefully we're starting to see that that's going to be root 25 and root 2. So it would be 5i root 2, because that negative would have gone with the 25. And there's my answer. Number 3, I'm going to let you guys try quick, and then I'll put the answer up there. For 3, I would minus 2 from both sides. So I have 4x squared equals a negative 32. Then I'll divide both sides by 4. So x squared equals a negative 8. When I square root both sides, hopefully you got x to be plus or minus 2i root 2. I think these are kind of fun. Number 4 then, we'll keep going. Minus 7. 16x squared equals negative 1. Divide by 16. Get a little bit depressed because I have a fraction. Realize that I actually can do fractions, so I square both sides. How do I take the square root of a fraction again? Remember, it's the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom. So the square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 16 is 4. So you could either write this as plus or minus I over 4, or another way to write it would be plus or minus 1/4 I. Either answer works. You guys go ahead and pause the video and try number 5. I would minus 16 from both sides, so I have 9x squared equals a negative 16. Divide by 9. So x squared equals negative 16 ninths. Square root. Square root of a negative 16 is 4i. Square root of 9 is 3. Don't forget my plus or minus. So I either have 4i over 3, or x is plus or minus 4/3 I. Your choice. Next one. I think we can skip. We're not going to do number 6. You guys try it for tomorrow. I'll read the answer. We'll go to number 7. Number 7 now, you'll see that we have some numbers inside of where our squaring is happening. And so we want to get the radical by itself, which we did, or the squared by itself. So I'm going to now square root. So I'd have 7x minus 2 equals. And I'm not sure what the square root of negative 66 is. I know it's going to be an I, but I don't know if 66 breaks down. So I'm going to try it. 1 and 66, 2 and 33, 3 and 22, 4, no, 5, no, 6 and 11. I'm not seeing any square roots here, right? So it must not break down beyond what 66. So I would write plus or minus I root 66. So now from here, I'm going to be using numbers and getting x by itself with this I root 66. So I'd add 2. These aren't like terms, so I can't actually add them. So I'd write the number first, plus or minus, or excuse me, 2 plus or minus I root 66. And then I'd divide by 7. So x equals 2 plus or minus I root 66 over 7. Another way to write this would be x equals 2/7 plus or minus I root 66 over 7. So it's one or the other. They are both correct. No, I don't prefer one over the other, and you should be able to recognize them both ways, hopefully.